No, the title and the thumbnail are not deceiving you. We have some really crazy buffs over here for the JP side of things for their 10th anniversary, and that does include Muramasa, Medea, finally, Ishtar, finally, Robin Hood. Some people have been saying that that guy is already still usable, but definitely could have used a buff in my opinion. I mean, just because the guy can still do some decent damage doesn't mean that we can't give him some nice modern tools to work with, especially because, again, that's a 3-star character that everybody has. Don't you want a character that everybody has to be just a little bit better? So we're going to start getting into this. We actually tested some of these on stream on Monday a couple of days ago, and I will say Muramasa's is probably the least impactful here, and this is what I mean. They buffed his NP, and now just instead of stacking the Arts buff, he stacks Arts, Buster, and Quick, which is nice. I kind of see what they're going for, because this skill over here gives him an Omni card buff, and I mean, I guess you could do some pretty nasty Buster crits with him, and the odd Quick crit every now and then, but realistically, the majority, like, major thing here that's happening is the fact that he is getting a higher damage scaling. If you didn't know, maybe you're new, this is what his NP looked like before, and it scales at 450 to 750, and then when they buff it, it goes to 600 to 900%. So you're actually getting a sizable damage increase. It's actually like your Muramasa is now going to be hitting like an old NP2 Muramasa. So that's pretty good. Like, that's really strong. If you want to think about it that way, functionally think your NP1 Muramasa now does NP2 damage. So that's really strong for him. He's already able to do some pretty decent damage. Like, for instance, I can do the Bleached Earth mission on JP without Oberon. You know, it does require double Castoria and Lady Avalon, but, you know, he can still get the job done on stuff like that. Muramasa can stack up to a pretty respectable level, but this is just going to make him even better. I kind of wish they would have kicked this up to, like, maybe 15%, maybe 20%. I think that would have been fine if he was stacking 20% for each of these, but I get it. You know, Muramasa's kind of getting up there in years. You know, Gramps is getting a little bit old. They want you to summon for the new shiny units. You know, they want you to use Takadu and all these other newfangled toys, but at least they did give him something. Now, Medea. Yeah, this one is disgusting. Look at this, bro. It's 30% for herself, 20% for everybody, so 50% self-arts buff, 20% for everybody else, 20% NP damage for everybody. Now it cleanses the party's debuffs instead of it just being one ally, and now everybody gets 50% NP gain for one turn. There has been a discussion now as to whether or not, you know, Medea is better than someone like Asclepius, right, when it comes to being like your low rarity art support. I will probably still use Asclepius because unfortunately he does give the battery, and the battery is really nice in some scenarios, but if you have a servant that doesn't need the extra battery, you're rocking Medea, right? Like, if I don't know why you'd be like trying to figure out how to get Oberon into these setups, but say you're doing some weird setup, right? You're borrowing a friend Castoria, but for some reason all you have is Oberon. Maybe you're in that position. Medea can kind of sub in for you, right? She can give you the massive NP gain for the first NP, which might be enough to help you refund to 100%. You could fall back on a self-battery for like wave 2, and if worst case scenario, you have Oberon's 50% battery for you as well. And then you're also getting the big NP damage buff that, remember, with someone like Oberon is going to be 40% getting overclocked by his third skill, and you're getting bonus NP gain and damage from this right here, because this is not just arts damage, this also factors into the arts card's NP gain as well. And it also means that Medea is really interesting in some of these farming comps now, because you might not remember, it might be a fat minute since you've used Medea, but let me tell you, this lady can fire her NP. You don't even need to get this to skill level 10. I mean, you should, I think she deserves it, but she can just fire her NP whenever. Why this is kind of interesting is that, say you're in a farming node where, I mean, you know, Medea has seen some use in like 90 pluses and plus pluses before to chunk some like smaller, you know, single target enemies that you can kind of handle. But say you're in one of these scenarios where you just are not getting quite enough damage, right? You could just use that extra little push. Well, you could always just fire Medea's NP in front of your primary DPSs. Now, is it going to hit them for a lot of damage? Decently so, right? You know, Medea's damage is actually not horrendous now. It's not like it's dummy nutty broken, because she does not, I mean, you might notice if we just looked at Muramasa, but this is AoE damage scaling. This is supposed to be significantly higher. I don't know why a single target has AoE damage scaling over here, but they just don't like it for some reason. But the most important thing is that it does function as an overcharge stage before your primary DPS that you can access whenever you want. You can kind of think of it like that. A little bit of extra chip damage, and it's going to give them that overcharge level. So if they have a power mod, a stacking mechanic, anything along those lines where you need to eke out a little bit of extra damage, not only is she giving you the NP damage and the arts buff and, you know, the NP gain for that first turn, but also she can give you that overcharge, technically. I think this character is super interesting. I think this is more than I could have ever hoped for them to give Medea. You know, so crossing my fingers, Summer Medea, please, that, you know, we're not giving her the buff just so that, you know, we're not gonna do the summer version or anything. But I believe there's also a Silver Rider coming up, so they might just be finishing out some of the Fate Stay Night characters. Because if you remember a couple of anniversaries ago, they buffed like Emiya and Ku and Herc and OG Saber, all those guys, blah, blah, blah. They might just be going through and fixing some of those guys up. That could be kind of nice. I think there's a 2-star assassin as well, so that could be Hassan of the Cursed Storm as well if they want to do that. But this is phenomenal. Again, for a character that everybody should have at NP5 for free just by playing the game normally, by doing your summons, by doing your friend point gacha, you'll eventually get, you know, this character, you know, as you're playing the game. I think that's really, really strong. It is also nice compared to Asclepius because Asclepius is locked behind the story gacha, and whether or not you think Asclepius is better or not, I do think it really just determines on whether or not the character you're using Asclepius with really needs the additional NP battery, right? If they don't really need the battery, then I think something like this is going to be a bit more impactful. But the fact is, you might just not have Asclepius, right? He's locked behind like specific banners and the story gacha, and nobody's going into the story gacha unless it's the free pulls they're giving every single day. So this is really, really nice. I really do quite like this. It's kind of like a power creep on somebody like Paracelsus. Kind of. Paracelsus gives like a smaller arts buff, so like you're getting less damage, but his NP gain is 50% for 3 turns, so a little bit of give and take for less NP gain technically, because you lose this after the first turn, but you do get more damage overall. So kind of interesting, and it does let you hit both sides of AoE and single target. If you need Asclepius to, I don't know, for whatever reason, take out a really small wave of enemies, then Asclepius can do that. And if you need Medea to chip at a larger enemy, you have a bit more diversity. I don't know why Arts is always winning like this. I don't know why they have a just absolute smorgasbord of different low rarity characters to use, but that's what they got. Ishtar, I didn't think they would give this to her, but yeah, so it's still a delayed buff, so you pop this on the turn before you want to use it, then on that next turn, she gets the big attack buff, she gets the buff success rate, and she butts everybody out of the rotation. So you just get a guaranteed Ishtar chain, which is really good, because she drops stars on her NP over here, and she also has like some pretty good crit damage, well, not like crazy crit damage, but you know, she can do like a pretty nice turn of being able to do some crits. I mean, you're going to be using her with like Koyanskaya and stuff, so she'll hit pretty hard. You can like set her up for like a really nasty Buster Brave chain where you can guarantee that you're going to get that. That's really nice going into like farming nodes. Like you could pop this on turn 2 before you're going to go into turn 3, get the big attack buff for the final node, guarantee that you'll have the face cards you need to hit the enemy. So if you are relying on face cards, you can line that up. But because it's on a 3-turn cooldown, I'm pretty sure you can spam this twice. I haven't used Ishtar a whole lot in Buster farming, but I have been assured that you can spam this skill somewhat, which is really strong for her because that's a big attack buff, and the fact that you can guarantee the command cards is going to be absolutely massive. Being able to fire this twice actually would be pretty decent going into the second and then the third wave. So if you fire this on turn 1, you'll have the big attack buff and the command cards ready for the second turn, which usually features a really large enemy and 90++ nodes. And then you can fire this again once you get the Koyanskaya battery to get it off cooldown, go into the final node, and have back-to-back turns of guaranteed Ishtar cards. Like, that's really, really good. Like, that is not bad. And you're double stacking this, so she's going to have, you know, 40% crit damage for herself. She's going to have 40% attack from this. And then let's just not demean the fact that the 20% buff success rate means that now your Ishtar can guarantee to get the invincibility and the Pierce invincibility, which makes her a lot more reliable going into boss fights. She's not as reliant on other people to keep her alive. She can get around bosses' defenses and stuff like that. That is just really strong for her. I know I'm a huge Ishtar hater, but I gotta give props where they're due. This is a really, really good skill buff for her. And then finally, there's Robin Hood. They gave him a little bit of a battery, a little bit of an arts damage buff. It's just good, solid stuff. Like, this is what I mean when bringing him into the modern era. Because, you know, the poison on here, if he didn't have this, would not really do anything. But thankfully, he does a power mod against poison. The dodge is nice, right? It's a method of survivability. Not that Arts really needs it, but it's cool that he has it. The stars, all that stuff is cool. Still missing out on crit damage on this guy. For him making stars, you'd figure that they give him some kind of crit damage, but this is really solid. This means that now you'll have a character that if you're going into like a 90++ node and you need to chunk a Berserker or a Saber, you might be able to get away with using Robin Hood, because as long as this lands, as long as the enemy doesn't have a crazy debuff resistance stat, you could poison them, hit them for big damage, and, you know, you got the battery and you're getting a little bit of extra damage off that arts buff. So just really good, solid stuff for Robin Hood over here. And I don't need to really explain this one as much because arts buff, more damage, battery, good. Like, good battery is good battery. So I'm really excited with this so far. This has been a really strong batch of characters. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what they're going to be doing with the next batch of people, because we usually get like, what, 10 people for anniversary? I'm going to try to cover these in 4s just because I feel like 2 characters at a time is not a whole lot, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So with all that being said, let me know what your favorite buff is. If you wanted me to like rank these, I think Ishtar's is the most broken. Dude, having 2 turns of being able to guarantee this because of Koyanskaya, right? But going into second and third waves on 90++s with a guaranteed Brave Chain, so even if your Ishtar doesn't hit hard enough, you can guarantee a Buster Brave Chain where you're gonna have crits. You know, you got the stars from Koyanskaya, you got 20 stars from that. You're gonna be doing crits on the enemies, you're gonna be bopping them. Plus, remember, Koyanskaya gives you Buster Star weight, so you're just gonna glorb all of those to your Buster cards anyway. Hit really hard, that's just really nice if you have Ishtar. I think Medea is probably getting away with the second one, just because this is really strong, but you do have other options, and I'm not sure outside of, you know, like 90++ nodes or 90+ nodes, if you're going to go out of your way to use Medea, but I know I am, because I'm trying to get her to Bond 10 for that Caster Grand stuff, baby. And then I think Robin Hood gets a bit better on probably the third one, just because this is good stuff that he probably could have wanted. Makes him a bit better of a character. And then Muramasa, because this stuff doesn't really do a whole lot for him, but the damage boost is going to be really nice. So with that being said, let me know in the comments down below what you think. All that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have a nice day, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye!